In November 1923, the first interment service passed through the gates of Victoria's new cemetery, Royal Oak Burial Park. Since 1923, the burial park has been responding to the changing funeral service preferences of the community. The selection of an interment site at Royal Oak Burial Park is a personal one. The burial park offers several options that will ultimately depend on the family's preference for location, the type of memorial desired, and the suitability of the site. There are primarily three types of traditional interment sites offered: the Royal Oak Community Mausoleum, traditional ground burial sections like the terraces at Section T, or a woodlands natural burial zone.
The Royal Oak Community Mausoleum has indoor and outdoor above-ground crypts that are dry and secure and permit single or companion entombment. Mausoleum remembrance takes the form of bronze name bars and plaques, perpetual vigil lights, cameo photos, and bronze flower vases. Each crypt front becomes a unique and very personal memorial. Crypt entombment is an affordable alternative and comparable in cost to in-ground burial. Since 1923, and as needs dictate, new interment sections are planned, developed, and opened for use at the burial park. Since 2001, all new interment sections feature what we call flat marker lots and upright monument lots. On a flat marker lot, only flat, ground-level markers are permitted, with a maximum of 3 flat markers per lot. An upright monument lot permits 1 upright monument in addition to 3 flat markers per lot. The upright monument is always the first memorial placed on this type of lot. Arrangements for memorial markers can be made at the burial park, and families are also free to use an outside supplier so long as any memorial selected complies with cemetery regulations. A good example of newer interment areas are Section W and the terraces at Section T. As the burial park opens interment areas, it files the plans and intended lot uses and permitted memorial types with a provincial regulator. These filed plans and regulations govern the sale of lots, interments, and the size and location of memorials on lots. Once filed, the burial park is obligated to operate the area under the stated parameters in perpetuity. The woodlands natural burial zones are dedicated to green or natural burial. Natural burial is an environmentally sensitive practice where human remains are returned to the earth to decompose naturally and contribute to new life. The preparation for natural burial is done without embalming and uses a biodegradable casket. As woodland zones are designed for those who wish to minimize their impact on the local environment, individual memorials are not permitted. As woodlands graves are used, they are planted with indigenous ground cover, plants, and trees. Ultimately, the entire area becomes reforested and integrates into the forested areas at its borders.
The long-term care and preservation of interment and memorial sites to the highest standard possible and entrusted to us in perpetuity is a deeply held commitment of the burial park. Provincial cemetery legislation requires that every cemetery has a specific trust fund established for such long-term care and maintenance. For every lot used and every memorial installed at the burial park, a pre-established portion of the fee charged for the lot or service is invested into the endowment care fund of the burial park. The cumulative accumulation of this fund over the active life of the cemetery and prudent, conservative investment of these funds is intended to ensure that when the cemetery is fully utilized, the interest the fund generates will be sufficient to care for the cemetery in perpetuity.
When a death occurs, the family will come to the burial park to make the interment arrangements. Families are always offered the option to witness a part of or the entire interment process. This witness type of service would include the lowering of the casket, the filling of the grave with earth, and the replacement of the sod and installation of a flower vase on the grave surface. Every earth burial, except in green burial zones, requires the use of a grave liner. Basic grave liners are installed for safety and maintenance purposes. They eliminate the sinking of graves and permit the safe passages of visitors and maintenance staff and equipment over individual graves and interment sections generally. Families do have the option of selecting a protective grave vault that protects against the intrusion of graveside elements into immediate space occupied by the remains and casket. After interment, graves remain unmarked until the family makes arrangements for a permanent memorial.
Royal Oak Burial Park is Victoria's premier cemetery. It is operated by the Board of Cemetery Trustees of Greater Victoria, a not-for-profit corporation that develops, operates, and maintains the burial park. The burial park does not have shareholders, and any excess revenue over expenditures is reinvested in the burial park. The burial park is fully self-funded from the fees it charges and receives no taxpayer subsidy from its founding stakeholders.
Royal Oak Burial Park is all about offering families options, and traditional burial is just one such choice they can provide. Serving Greater Victoria families since 1923. Community-owned, not-for-profit, Royal Oak Burial Park.